welcome to the show, Sarah. You're our first guest, so which is quite exciting for us, obviously. Thank you so much for your courage, for coming forward and talking about such a personal issue. And I guess, I suppose I'm really just curious to know a little bit about you, as much as you want to share, just a bit of a background, I suppose, especially for those who are just listening on audio and may not see you over the video.
Right.
Just wondering really if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about why you decided to come on our show and talk about this topic.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. So my name's obviously Sarah and I'm 46 years old. I live in Ohope Beach with my husband, and I've got three teenage children. Two of them have recently left home and I've just got one at home at the moment. I'm a primary school teacher as trained, but currently I'm actually doing, before I was a primary school teacher, I was a florist, and I've actually gone back to that.
Wow.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
obviously because of, we'll probably get into more later about what happened in working and things like that, but I have gone back to that. Yeah, so currently I'm a florist and I'm easing myself back into work now that I'm feeling better after everything. So yeah. So I do have a lovely life. And yeah. And I think that's the thing with, what happened, and is it can happen to anybody, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's right. So, from your point of view, the reason you decided to come on the show today?
So I saw your post that you wanted to some people to be able to share their experience, and I saw that, and I, from the very beginning, have been very open. I know it's not for everybody, but I found that really helped me. So I wanted to share, because when I was really deep in it, I really struggled actually to find meaningful stories that were the same as mine, and not that you could get exact, but when I did hear women who were similar to myself had been through it, it just helped so much. And a lot of the strategies that ended up working were from those women who had walked that walk. So I guess if I can help anybody who is going through it or will go through it, that will make it all worthwhile, because as I said, it's almost like paying it forward, I guess, because so many people who helped me with, not even sometimes people realizing that they were, but just saying something that I was able to grab onto.
So tell us a little bit about your story, little bit of, maybe wherever you feel like you want to begin.
Okay, well, it sort of came out of the blue, but then in hindsight now, it probably didn't. I think I had warning. So at the where are we? 2021, I was primary teaching 5-year-olds, loved my job, still do love it. Was in a really great workplace, great team. Like, just honestly, so many things were so wonderful about my job, and I had been in it a little while at the school, and everything was just quite predictable and yes, stressful at times, but I just thought that's what what school is, and that's and I loved it with a passion, so I thought I was fine. But we had, building up to it, a few things happen, like probably prior to that year, prior to 2021, we had a sudden death in the family, and I watched a loved one go through some really tough stuff, and we had our school burned down. And my husband's the principal, so I didn't have to support him. I wanted to support him through that. And with COVID, everybody was affected by COVID in some way, and I thought that I was okay with it, but looking back, that was stressful. All shut down. All of a sudden, I couldn't see my 5-year-olds, and life was just not normal. And amongst the school burning down, we had to vacate to another hall for a whole term, and then in amongst that, we had a tsunami warning in Ohope, where I live, and we had to take pretty much our whole school up a hill to evacuate. And all of that stuff I just kind of got through, and I honestly, I know it was stressful at the time, but we just, as you do, you get through it. And but anyway, so at the end of 2021, I finished the end of the year, and I just felt like everybody else. I felt like I needed a holiday. I was having some symptoms. My anxiety was way higher, and out of nowhere, I would just get these random, I'd sit in assemblies and just feel like I needed to get out of the room. And being in situations where there were lots of people and driving. I remember driving, I just all of a sudden felt really, I'd have to drive my son into town to the skate park, and I would just be feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I should be behind the wheel. You know, something as mundane as driving, I would just get these random, I'd get jittery, and looking back, my appetite started to go. I can remember going out for dinner with girlfriends at the end of the year, and I remembered saying to them that I wasn't quite right, and that my anxiety was, you know, quite high at random times. I couldn't predict it. And then dinner came and I couldn't eat. And I remembered saying to my girlfriends, oh my gosh, I'm so starving, but I can't eat, and I don't want to eat this. I've never had a problem with eating. And so I just kind of thought this was all normal and I just needed a holiday. So when the school holidays came, I was relatively happy. I was still fine. I knew I needed a holiday, but anyway, around Christmas, pretty much Christmas Day, I was in A&E because I just had severe bowel pain, couldn't eat, and it was just horrific. So we went to A&E. They didn't really know, and it was Christmas Day, so they just kind of sent me off with laxatives and but that was pretty much the day, Christmas Day. So we would have been 2021, and then right through the summer, I pretty much just crashed. Like, and looking back, it was just a big body crash. I couldn't eat. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't.
Wow.
It should have been an amazing summer of rest and fun, and I was just gone.
Sounds really, really tough. And I mean, you know, was anxiety something? So it sounds like it started with anxiety and then it ended up crashing into depression from what I'm hearing. From your experience, had you ever experienced depression or anxiety before? Or was this the first time that you'd really experienced that?
Well, I've always been quite a sensitive person. I know that, and I know like that's something about me I wouldn't want to change. I know it makes me a teacher here. And I know that I'm not always, as much as I'm quite a chatty person and a social person, I do get anxious about being in front of crowds and certain situations. So there's always been a little bit of anxiety, but no, this was like this was
whole other level.
For no reason. So I think that to a degree it's always been there, and I've had days where I'm sad and, you know, I've hit the wall, and when my teaching jobs got to me and I've woken up the next morning knowing I need a day to cry, and, you know, helping with a student, and I've always been good at ringing up and having that day, and my job's always been good at saying, you know, and then I could usually take that day and bounce back and process. But this was beyond, you know, I call it basically a body crash. It was beyond, you know, I couldn't thing basically to get myself out of it at the time.
So I mean, really, when you look back, there were just so many stressors going on at the one time, and I think a lot of people can relate to that because we've all gone through COVID, but many of us have gone through other stuff on top, and COVID on its own was you know, stressful, and we've, you know, in New Zealand we've had, you know, really high rates of anxiety as a result of COVID and lockdowns and all of it. But when we add other significant stressors to that, it sounds like your body was really churning out adrenaline and cortisol a lot and for a long time.
Yes.
A lot of stuff in a short period of time.
I mean, all of those things didn't necessarily happen completely at once, but when I shared with people what it was happening, I had so many people say, I'm not surprised. And I was a bit like, well, I am. What? I didn't see this coming, but they were the ones that could see, well, Sarah, you've been through this and you've been through this. But I kind of felt like as all of those things had happened that I had dealt with them. but clearly not. You
Yeah.
know, my body, yeah, had
Yeah.
other ideas. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
like you said, I think I just was literally running on adrenaline. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
yeah.
Which is like we can have these short-term stressors, and our body can manage that, but when it goes on and on and on, so for you, how many months was it from the time you started to feel anxious to the time that you felt like your body just crashed?
So it was towards the end of 2020. I'm sorry, 2021. So 2021 was, and particularly term 4 of 2021 when I was
Yeah.
really starting to get like this is not fun, and I kind of go to work
Mm.
and know quite how I would feel sometimes, and sometimes
Yeah.
out of the blue I would just feel and then get through it. But it was like Christmas Day, like I said, that was when I kind of that was when I started to get the bowel pain and those stress symptoms but I didn't know it was that at the time. And then it was pretty much all of January. Like
Yeah.
January, just I managed to go on a summer holiday, and then when we got back from that, I just absolutely crashed, and I was in bed like pretty much all of January, and every day I was crying. Couldn't eat. I was just I couldn't go to the shower without needing a rest. I would actually crawl to the shower, which is just like literally off our bed.
Mm.
And I would sit on the bottom of it, and then afterwards sit on the bathroom floor just to get the energy to put
Wow.
my glasses on or whatever, and then crawl to bed and sleep. And I just
Yeah.
slept. I slept and I cried, slept and cried, slept and cried. And I
Wow.
just kept waking up every single day. My husband was sleeping in another room, and he'd come in every morning and be like, like kind of go this to me, like he's
Mm.
hoping that one day, not putting pressure on me, and I'd just be like, nah, like just went on and on. And then I guess
Wow.
towards the end of the school holidays, that's when I started to panic, because I really thought my body would be better.
Yeah.
And I looking back, that hindered my healing, I think, because I was so stressed about not getting well for work.
Mm. Mm.
Uh, and thankfully they found a teacher to replace me.
Yeah.
And but I spent term 1 again home, again just home crying, couldn't eat, sleeping. That was the only blessing in all of it. I slept really, really well. I know a lot of
Mm.
people, I feel so sad for them. I know that they don't sleep, whereas I was the opposite. That's pretty much all I did. And even at
Yeah.
night, I slept like a log.
Well,
It would have been worse if I was sleep deprived. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, quite often with anxiety, it keeps people awake. They really struggle to go off to sleep. They've got lots of
Mm.
ruminating going on in their mind, and, really struggling to sleep, or even waking up early and not being able to get back to sleep.
Mm.
And then there's the opposite, where people are sleeping too much. And it sounds like that was kind of what you were doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which actually feeds depression, actually. Like, it becomes this vicious cycle, but it's because the more you sleep, actually the more depressed you get. It's kind of like you're going down this horrible hole, black
Yeah.
hole. And yeah, and so, but what a shock for you, because when you think about that, that's a real short space of time to go from I'm feeling anxious and I'm going to school to I can't get out of bed and I'm crawling to the shower.
It's exactly how it happened. It just felt like it came like completely out of the blue, even though there were little warnings. I don't know how I could have seen those warnings knowing that would actually happen,
Yeah, yeah.
And it was, so term 1, so that's pretty much February to April. Yep. So I was home. I was trying really hard to get back to work. And again, looking back, I should have just not done that. But I think we're all only human, and we all,
Yeah.
and I was fretting because I didn't know whether this was me forever. And you worry about the financial impacts of that.
Yeah, of course.
I did
Yeah.
have days, thank goodness, but I worried that, and so looking
Yeah.
back, that didn't help. So, but when I tried to go back in term 2, I was feeling better. I went back for 3 days a week, and I did 3 weeks of that, and then my body basically went no again. I started crying again, even though I loved being back and I loved my job. So that's when my husband said to me, "Sorry, but you need to take the rest of the year off." And
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for that, and I just know And financially it sucked, but
Mm.
we took a mortgage holiday. I always let people know that, because I honestly did think we couldn't survive without my
Yeah.
wage.
Yeah.
But there are options, and I know that, you know, not everyone is in that position. I know but we did take a mortgage holiday, and that took the pressure off the fact that I wasn't earning, and it meant that
Yeah.
we, you know, and as soon as he said that, and I kind of admitted to the fact that I couldn't go back teaching at this stage,
Mm.
that's when I really started to heal. And
Yeah.
the teacher who had replaced me, she took over permanently, and I was fine with that. And I feel like that's when I really started to recover, is when
Yeah.
I'm at peace with the fact that I was home every day, and that I couldn't control everything, and that
Yeah.
I had to roll with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounded like before it was like, how am I going to be well enough to function, e.g. work? And now then the priority then changed to, okay, now I can just focus on getting well. Now I can
Yeah.
focus on healing,
Yeah.
doing what I need to do.
Yeah.
So that it's almost like, you know, that pressure to get well to function almost made it worse. Yeah. So
It
it
so
sounded
did.
like it did make it worse.
It did.
Yeah, and I mean, all of us would feel like that, you know, because we all have these pressures on our in our lives and sense of responsibility. And so it was amazing that you had a partner that just gave you perspective, and you were both able to find a solution that was going to work for your family,
Yeah.
and give you that space.
Yeah.
And also that you gave yourself permission to do that, because sometimes in my line of work, I do find people who I guess struggle to look after themselves. And
Yeah.
I think that's a really hard road, because mental health, one of the biggest lessons that I've always, you know, that I learned for myself and I've helped other people to learn, is that self-care is not a nice to have. It's a must have when it comes to mental health.
Mm-hmm.
It's vital. It becomes vital. So
Mm.
from your point of view, were you able to identify what was going on for you? Or did you have no idea really what was happening?
No. I'm if I'm honest, at one point I really thought I was dying. I laugh
Mm.
now, it's because it's not funny, but you know, it's just I look back, and because there were so many symptoms, like not being able to eat, losing
Mm.
weight, and it triggered bowel symptoms. I think that would have been irritable
Yeah.
bowel back, but it was hideous, and my bowel movements were hideous. Everything was.
Mm.
So we went down the whole, we did colonoscopies, and we did,
Yeah.
you know, down my throat and things like that, just to check that it wasn't something
Yeah.
hideous. And yeah, because we just didn't know what was going on. Yeah, I just had never heard of a body doing all of that all at once.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
now I look back, and it is, you know, I talked to my doctor the other day, and I said, look, in hindsight, would you say like burnout, classic burnout? And she said, for sure. Yeah. I mean, now that we've ruled out everything else, it was just complete, absolute burnout.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and no, I didn't know. And we were doing all sorts of tests. The doctors kept sort of taking blood tests, but then that would come back inconclusive. And
Yeah.
was it nutrient deficiency? Was it this and was it that? And
Yeah.
yeah, no, we just didn't know. And I think that was a frustrating thing too, because I
Yeah.
didn't know, you know, what
Yeah.
I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people go down that road because um you know, depression and anxiety, we've got this in New Zealand, we've got something called a national depression initiative. And what that is that people have to self-identify that they have depression or anxiety, but they often don't have the education or information to make that decision. And so and when you present to the doctor, you know, you, especially with anxiety, I think, because anxiety can manifest as physical issues, and
Sure.
even people with panic attacks. And I don't know if you did, but they often have this feeling of chest tightness and racing heart, and you know, um, feeling of dread, and
Yeah.
all of those sorts
Sure.
of things. So they often end up in A&E checking their heart, and
Yeah.
so those sorts of things happen for people a lot, and or they're at the doctor checking their fatigue, really exhausted and can't find a reason for it. So it's really, really common for people to really be confused about what's really happening.
Yeah.
For you,
That,
how did you work it out in the end?
well, I think definitely hindsight, so now that I'm out of it, and well, not fully out of it, but more myself
Yeah,
now, I can
yeah.
look back and sort of think, okay, yeah, that was but at the time, what we did was I saw a naturopath, and I was seeing a doctor. And I think that was really good. And the fact that, the doctor would kind of do a test and then send me off and make me wait for the test results, or kind of, kept sort of saying, okay, let's try this, and then sending me off. Whereas I felt like I just didn't have time to keep waiting for results, like.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it
Yeah.
was really good seeing the naturopath in between, because
Mm,
I signed up with her so that we were checking in regularly, and she put me on, she had a few possibilities for what was going on,
mm.
hormonal and obviously burnout, apparently mold is I don't know,
Right, yeah.
you can get from all of these things and I felt really great, comforted by her, because what she did was in the meantime put me on some really good supplements.
Mm,
Basically we're troubleshooting, and as she said, if it's not that, these will only help anyway. But and I actually did see results. She was they were very targeted supplements that
yeah,
she would sort of, and as new symptoms would arise, she was really good at what she did, so
yeah,
it really helped. And so that, I think that's, you asking what made me realize what it was troubleshooting. And
yeah, yeah.
though that takes a lot of effort, and I saw it, I was seeing a counselor as well, I was kind of doing all the
All the
ticking everything.
things. Yeah.
I have to say that is flippin' expensive, and
Yes.
I,
Yeah.
I can see why Mike King's having to do all this fundraising, because
Yeah.
we had to dip into our savings. We do have medical insurance, and I know I come from a place of privilege saying that, and it breaks my heart that someone going through similar
Mm.
circumstances wouldn't have that to throw at it, because that kind of kept me going, knowing that we
Yeah.
were doing things about it, and
Yeah.
finding ways to get through it. Yeah.
Yeah. And as you say, kind of going for tests, especially if you are going through the public health system, going through tests and things like that and waiting for results, it is super hard it sounds like the symptoms that you're describing to me, I would probably guess were moderate to severe kind of symptoms, just going from a clinician's
Yeah. Yeah.
experience. Um, and that is hard to go day by day by day, week by week. When someone says, it's going to be a week before the results or whatever, that
Yeah.
just seems like just torture almost.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I've got a very methodical husband, so that's why he's good at his job. So he was really good at going, okay, so we've tried that, let's do this. So it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really looking at
Almost kind of need
solutions.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I would
yeah.
be, and I will try not to get emotional talking about it, but I was going to a very dark place and feeling, and I'm a very bright, bubbly person, but I do get sad. But oh gosh, there were days when I had thoughts of ending it, and
Yeah.
like that was really scary. And I've got a
Mm,
lot to live for, and I've got a beautiful life and beautiful kids, and I would never do that to them. But I went there. I went there a
yeah.
few times, and
Yeah.
I literally was thinking, yeah, and that's a scary, scary thing. Like, you
Yeah.
just, when you're there, yeah, you just, because you can't see how you're going to ever get better, and you're so sick of
Mm,
the anxiety, you're so sick of feeling crap all the time. Yeah, so
yeah.
it's not something to take lightly. It's
No.
the fact that I went there in my thoughts,
Mm,
but didn't try, but it was, but I went there,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
oh, Yeah, it's, I mean,
Yeah,
it gives chills thinking about it, that,
yeah,
yeah, it's a
yeah.
serious thing.
And
Yeah,
it's a serious thing, and it's a common thing. It's
yeah,
really, really common.
yeah.
And with alongside depression, those thoughts can come, and and we need to know, what do we do about it? Where do we go? Who do we talk to? And it sounds like you had help, but not answers quickly.
Mm.
Do you think, looking back, that there could have been something that would have given you, that might have helped you to get answers sooner?
Um, hmm. I was a little bit sort of annoyed with the doctors, even though she was so lovely. I don't put, but looking back now, I think it is hard for them. So I don't quite know what they could have done differently, because I didn't know what was wrong. So I don't know how they could have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If they had just said, well, you're depressed, which they actually kind of did. And she wanted to put me on, actually, yeah, I think I'm answering my question just talking. Wanted to put me on medication quite early. I was a bit insulted by that. I was a bit like, oh, you're not just going to put me on meds and send me away, is what my thoughts were, when you don't even know like what's wrong with me. Like, I was just thinking she just wanted to stick me on pills.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have much knowledge about the pills, only what she was saying. But again, I was so thankful that I did share how I was feeling with my friends. I know it's not for everybody, but I did put a post on Facebook about what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
It was really good, because what happened was I had friends who I didn't know who had been through this message me
Right.
and quite a common theme was, some of them said, don't be afraid to go on the medication.
Yeah.
I did, or I have, or I still am on it.
Yeah.
And I was afraid to go on it. And I feel embarrassed that I was, because there is a stigma.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
there is.
embarrassed to say that I was a bit like, no, I'm not going on, because I'm not depressed. I'm not a depressed person. I'm sick, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
the doctor prescribed that medication, and it wasn't till quite later on that my husband and I had tried everything, and I was starting to feel a bit better, but I still couldn't quite conquer that anxiety and that just that general feeling of, like doom.
Mm.
And so I did start it, and thankfully friends had told me that it takes a while to kick in, and it
Yeah.
does get worse before it gets better sometimes, and that
Yeah.
all of it happened to me. But I tell you what, so I wish that I had gone on that sooner, because that was
Mm.
kind of the icing on the cake for me. I had been doing yoga, and I'd been going to counseling, and I know all of those things helped.
Yeah.
And then I know the doctor helped, and I know the naturopath helped, but the medication just, and is still working. I'm on it still, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going great on it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not altering me. I can still cry. I can still get, emotional. I can still get a little bit anxious, which I'm
Yeah.
glad.
Yeah.
But yeah. So to answer that question about what I wish I'd done, is I had wished that I'd gone on that medication. So, so even if it ended up being something else was diagnosed, I think it would have helped me
Yeah.
feel and feel
Yeah.
happier
And
and
it
be
was
myself again.
and you
Yeah,
felt like it was the sort of the stigma around medication, and the idea of not wanting, it sounds almost like, and isn't it funny, because we're happy, well, not happy, but we are willing to be diagnosed with physical conditions, but not mental health conditions. So
yeah,
there's just still that stigma there, which
totally.
is, which is why we're here today, to start hopefully reducing that. Is there
Yeah,
anything, I mean, it sounds like you've loads of things that you found helpful, like, just listening to your story, hearing that your friends were really,
yeah,
reaching out was helpful. You had good friends that was obviously supportive and responded really well. And you obviously overcame your own, I guess, inner, uh, I guess, I don't know,
well,
that
yeah,
inner.
I was
It would have
angry.
been hard. It would have been hard to say that stuff on Facebook. It would have been really, really hard. But you must have reached a point where you were like, I'm ready to try anything now. I'm ready to I just want to do whatever it takes to get out of this black hole.
That is absolutely right. And I know sharing's not for everybody, but for me, it was vital. And as I
Yeah,
said, I probably wouldn't have gone on the medication if I hadn't have reached out and told people how I was feeling. Because, these lovely people came back to me and said, well, look, just to let it didn't say to me, go on it, but just said, look, this really helped me when I was, I was kind of like, oh, wow, well, I didn't know that happened to you. And I was kind of, yeah. So
yeah,
I think if I can say if I can share that I'm on it and that's
yeah,
helped me, I hope someone else won't be reluctant to give it a
yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and apparently there is lots out there, and apparently if whatever you're on doesn't work, try again. I had to alter my dosage a little bit, so it did take quite a few weeks to get there,
yeah, yeah.
but now I'm absolutely like I don't know. It's just like wonderful, and I'm not in a hurry to go off it. There were a few people around me who were like worried that I'd be, my family were kind of, and they were great, and I didn't mind the questions, but will you be addicted, and will this happen? And
Yeah, yeah,
but no, apparently not. I will
yeah.
have to. When I do go off them, I will consult the doctor and make sure I'm doing it properly. But what I've got in my head is if I go off them and I turn to custard again, I will
Mm,
go back on them and I'm not going to feel like a failure.
yeah, yeah,
I've got to be easy on myself and
yeah,
and do
yeah,
whatever it takes to get well again if this
yeah,
happens again. And hopefully it won't take as long if I'm easy on myself and kind and rather
yeah.
than beating myself up, yeah, like I
And
was.
and so, like for you, what's life like now? I mean, I know I hear you're not out of the woods
Yeah.
exactly, but it sounds like it's changed.
It has. And I am a wee bit grateful for what happened because I've always been grateful for my life, but now I'm super grateful for it. And this summer's been really lovely because it's kind of like exactly a year since, and so everything
Mm,
I'm doing this summer, including Christmas Day, I'm like, I've been able to enjoy everything. I've been able to eat. I've been able to, like I'm back enjoying food again. And I'm really protective of probably myself now. I'm
mm,
determined to read those signs. So if I do start to get awful anxiety again, or if I do start to my bowels are playing up for whatever reason, or I'm quite protective of rest. I make no
yeah,
apologies for having afternoon sleeps after work or in the weekends now. I'm if my body's needing that, I'll give it, give it
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing really great. And I know it's a factor of everything. I
Mm,
have had to ease into work, and this year I'm hoping to be able to do more work and get back into work.
yeah.
Um, but my confidence is back there in that regard because
Mm,
I was worried about it, but now and I will be doing a little bit of teaching again. And yeah, so,
mm,
but I
mm,
just am determined to look after myself and
yeah,
hopefully, I know it's easier said than done, but not be too hard on myself if it happens again. I know I will be
yeah.
gutted, but
Mm,
yeah, hopefully I can
yeah,
just be kinder to myself. Yeah, but
yeah. It's
good. Mm.
Yeah, and I suppose it's that reminding yourself, I've done this before, I can do it again. I mean, even
Yeah,
though it is, it's hard, you know how tough it can be, but
yeah,
you also probably know how to get out of it a little faster than
yeah.
before as well.
And then
Um,
it's forever, like whereas when I was in it and I didn't know, I honestly thought, oh my gosh, this is me now. Simon's going to be parenting the kids. I'm going to be in bed.
mm,
I just was lying there thinking, this is me. This is my personality now. I'm a bedridden, crying ball of
yeah,
crap.
yeah,
And really, truly, I did. I just thought this is me. I just thought this.
mm,
I've had a complete, like whatever it is, and I see myself ever getting well. And so
yeah,
hopefully now I'll know that things, can get better. I wouldn't have probably seen myself being like this again. So
yeah,
yeah, and it's
yeah.
everything. Mm.
Those hilltops feel so much more. I don't know, the colors look brighter and the
Yeah, yeah, totally.
everything looks and is brighter once you've been in the valleys, and
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I'd really love to know what advice you would have for loved ones of those who are going through this, and also advice for those who are going through this at the moment.
Yeah. just, it will pass. It can pass. This is not forever. It's not permanent. Reach out. If you don't have close friends and family, reach out, go phone up the free counselling lines, just make sure you keep talking. Get out in nature. The one thing that really helped me was walking the dog every day. We've got a very active dog. She needs a walk, and my husband was really good at coming and getting me, and I would go, and I would be like shuffling, like could barely walk, but I know it really helped. And even if I just stared at the sky so please try and get yourself out in the sun, get yourself outside. No matter how crap you're feeling, try to get out of bed and have a shower. I did do that every day, even if it meant that I went back to bed after it. So just little things, little wins, because they help your self-esteem, and sitting out in the sun. So I know that those days when I just felt so crap and I just would literally be out and looking out at the birds. See, when I look back on that period, I see that beauty. I can remember those memories. So just remember the awful lying in bed. I can remember, and I can remember sitting out with family. So that was another lovely thing. So I think for anyone who's supporting someone going through it, include them. What I loved is that my family still carried on, like to a degree, and I had my daughter's birthday and we went out for dinner, but I was feeling terrible, but I just was happy to be sitting at the dinner table in this restaurant. I was anxious as anything. I felt like the world was closing in on me. I couldn't eat, but I was so grateful that I got to sit there and watch my beautiful daughter shine, and I'm so grateful everybody just kind of carried on around me, and they just didn't, of course they were concerned about me, and so I've got that memory, I've got so I think, include people, be there for people who are going through what I was going through, up on them. And I think another thing I was thinking about is try not to put too much pressure on those around you. I made a decision, and I'm really glad I did, that quite early on I wouldn't put pressure on my friends to be perfect for me. I wouldn't sort of hurt anyone, because I didn't know what was wrong with me. So, and I didn't know what I needed. So I guess I didn't want to ever because I had quite a few friends apologize to me later and just say, look, I feel crap. I wasn't there. I felt like I wasn't there for you. I just would say, look, mate, you sent me a Facebook message. That meant a lot at that time, so they were like, oh, but I could have done more. I could have phoned you. But I was like, no, mate, I didn't know what I needed, so the ones that their heart's in the right place. So I just made it. I wasn't going to be grumpy at anyone for not being there for me, because they don't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, but I have, luckily, I'm probably lucky because I had my husband, and my parents were phoning every day, and my sister was phoning every day, and that's nice. And they didn't have any expectations on me when they phoned. Sometimes I just cried the whole phone call. But you need those people too, the ones who holds. Actually, that phrase, hold space, it was cheesy. I'm always kind of like, oh, whatever. But exactly the people who held space for me and whatever condition I was in, you just cherish them so much. And they, it just carried on around you kind of thing, but they were there for, there for you in that way. Just,
and that sounds really precious advice actually for loved ones, is because a lot of people don't know what to say, and it sounds like you don't actually need them to say anything. You just actually need them to ring you to say and listen, or just bring you along and just let you be, not have any expectations, just let you be still part of the family, still part of the events and celebrations or whatever, without any expectation or stress or on you. So it sounds like you really had an amazing family around you during that time, and partner. So thank you so much for your amazing insight, and also for sharing your story, because like I said when we started, it takes so much courage, and it's so emotional, and because it's such a hard time of your life. But I know it will mean so much to people to hear that, because they will be going through that right now. or else they know someone very close to them that's going through that. So I
Yeah.
really, really appreciate you talking to me today. And
Yeah, you're so welcome. And anyone going through it, listening, please don't harm yourself. Just hang in there, because you will get through it, and you will look back and say, you know, I'm so glad I stuck through this. And yeah, and you are enough as you are. So just, yeah, don't put that pressure on yourself. People don't need, you know, perfect all the time. Yeah. So, but thank you for letting me share. It's quite cathartic, you know, looking back on it. So yeah, thank you very much.
great to have you.
Yeah.